Alright, Willie, this is the prelude to the index card, and you're actually going to have to listen to a little rant of mine on seconds, but you said you wanted to anyway, so I'll do this for you. The idea in dealing any false deal is the same idea as in any false put, false take, false transfer, cut, shuffle. It needs to simulate the real thing, and the biggest secret to any false deal is not to make the false deal look like the top deal, but it's to make the top deal look like the second deal, or whatever false deal is. I'll say this again, the real secret is to make the top deal look like the false deal. Because imagine you're in a game, and for 100 top deals that you deal, you now have to deal in 3 seconds. So the rest, in other words, if you always deal around with one hand, then you might be able to do. But if you do a deal like this, and then suddenly you deal this way because you have to for a second, that looks silly. But if you always, every time you come to this hand, you deal this way, you just snap it over because it just seems natural. Then if you eventually you do this, now this one looked different than the ones before, but this was the only top really, because now you make them look the same. That's the idea, to make the top look like the second. But anyway, one of the problems with the second deal that magicians do is, for example, they will do something like this, and they will sit there and they will, I'll be proud as Lucifer, and they'll do this with a very small brief, and it's really bad. It's nothing. It's the worst sort of demonstration that you could possibly think of. Now I can do this. I've practiced it when I was younger, but it doesn't simulate anything. Nobody deals like that. There is a game called Pai-Gow poker, where you actually have a deck of 53 cards, 52 cards plus a joker, and you deal 7 cards. Only have time for 6, 7, whatever. And you just keep dealing back and to and fro until you use up all the cards, and you do that at speed. That's about the closest you come to dealing cards. That's not a deal. It's placing cards on the table. Now, in this particular game, when you deal them out like this, that's as close as you come to just placing them on the table. But nobody does this. Nobody places them on the table. That's because that's stupid. You're making it hard on yourself, and it has to be. It's actually not easy to take the top card if you just have that much. But by now just hitting the edge, well, yes, of course it's possible to just draw out the second card. And Vernon always said the biggest lie about the second deal is the size of the breach. It has to be small. Now the way I usually deal seconds, for this is as much of a break as I take, and it actually looks better because this is how I would have to deal a top card. I would have to take the top card, I push it off in order for me to take it, and well, that looks good. Now, I don't change that at all. I still push it off, and with a thumb, I don't take this card, but the thumb goes in exactly the same place, and it just draws out the second card instead, and that's where that oval comes from, that David Livingstone, and I think in 1973 in Cheating at Cards or whatever, he wrote about this oval. You should make this top card describe a small oval. Well, it makes sense, because this way it would do just that if you're dealing tops. You do the exact same size oval, but you're not taking the second card, so you're making your tops look like your seconds, which is, it's one of those things. For example, if you see someone, let's say I shuffle the cards like this. I shuffle them again, and then let's say I dealt out 4 hands, and I dealt out like this. And so suppose I didn't do anything this time, but suppose I had 4 aces. I kept doing that, and I had 4 aces. Now, as a magician, you have to say, okay, he could have been stacking these cards, or he could have false shuffled these cards, or he could have false stealthed those cards, and that's a concept I want to talk about briefly with you. It's called provisional plausibility. Now, when Steve Forty did his center deal demonstration, it had me fooled for well over a decade. I had no idea what he did. I always thought he did some sort of a shift there, but I just didn't know. I had no idea. I thought, no, maybe he has somehow or other. I mean, he's holding the cards like this, and he's dealing seconds. It's really not possible. I mean, as far as the laws of physics go, the cards were squared up before, and he put them in his hand, and he started dealing centers. It's really not possible. But I thought it was a shift of some sort. And then about, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I saw a guy on YouTube do Steve Forty's center deal demonstration. And, and I told it to Mirko, and Mirko said, well, he's just dealing bottoms. Well, first of all, it's not just bottoms. Those bottoms are well-nigh flawless. But this other guy, his bottoms were just as good. I mean, a bottom deal is an achievable slight. But he didn't fool me for 1 second. I immediately knew, oh, I see, he's just dealing second. He said he's just dealing bottoms. You have nine cards at the bottom, you deal for a 5-handed game, you deal 9 bottoms, and then the 10th bottom is your first ace, and then every time you come to yourself, you deal yourself an ace, and that's the explanation for that trick. But it didn't fool me for 1 second. The reason why is because you had no, what I like to think of as provisional plausibility. You're going to say, okay, this being seconds is a possibility. I'm not saying that they're seconds yet, but they could be seconds. You keep them in the back of your head, and once you go with that, you can actually go and make people believe that this is a second, which it isn't. It couldn't be. I mean, by the laws of if the laws of physics are the laws of physics, you cannot take a card like this and say that they're second. But this is just a little teaser. In the index card, you're going to say, okay, those are seconds, but I'll talk about that in a bit more depth later on.